The Chargers lost to the Ravens, which we all expected, but we didn't expect it to go down the way that it did. It was the offense that lost them the game, and the defense was the one that was consistently keeping them in it. And we all know this is Brandon Staley's defense, man, so he deserves credit when they play well, just like he deserves the blame when they play poorly. So then why exactly are the Chargers so bad when we all predicted them to compete in the playoffs this year? Well, I got a pretty good idea, so while I give you my take, make sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this content, man. It helps me out so much. And listen, man, their main issue is consistency. There have been several games this year where the defense outplayed the offense, and they looked like a good defense. Yes, we saw the best of them in the 2-game stretch with the Bears and the Jets, and those are two of the worst offenses in the NFL. Okay, yeah, I get it. But they had a pretty good stretch leading up to those games, and they played great against the Raiders, and Khalil Mack had an amazing performance, man, with 6 sacks. He was unstoppable that day, and this season he's been playing great, and they held Josh Jacobs in check, only allowing 3.3 yards per carry. They played well against the Cowboys, where they only allowed 20 points to that offense and got 5 sacks while shutting down the Cowboys' running game. And also, they played really well in the second half against the Chiefs, where they only allowed 1 scoring drive and forced a turnover in 6 drives, and they also shut down the Chiefs' run game with only 3.2 yards per carry. If there is one positive takeaway that we can take from this defense this year, it is that the run defense is clearly improved and teams have been forced to pass more to get yards on them. The problem is that it is so easy to pass against this defense, and a lot of the time that is the often better route to go to against any defense in today's NFL. I mean, passing the ball has a higher yield and a higher percentage for success than running the ball, and that's not just my opinion, that is the analytics of it, and it has become the trend around the league to pass more often than run because they recognize it as the better option as well. The only team that continues to run the ball a lot more often than they pass it is the Ravens. And the reason for that is Lamar Jackson, obviously. And if you look at the box score, it looks like the Chargers defense just got ran through, man. That's almost 200 yards on the ground. But if you look at it closely and you watch this game, that is not the case. The run defense held up about as well as you could have asked for the majority of this game. And in the first half, the Ravens had 16 runs, including scrambles from Lamar, for 58 yards. And then in the second half, they allowed 3 big chunk runs for 18 yards, 29 yards, and then that 37-yarder by Zay Flowers for the touchdown. That made the rushing total go way up. And on those 3 plays alone, they allowed 84 rushing yards, and they all came in the second half. While that last one for 37 yards was obviously on like the last play of the game by Zay Flowers to close it out. How poetic was that, by the way? Glad we have Quentin Johnston, though. Anyway, if you think that that was a bad performance by this defense, then I just don't know what to tell you, because I got a few comments on my video yesterday telling me that they couldn't stop the Ravens from running it, and I felt like I was going crazy, because the only reason that we were not blown out was because of how well that defense was playing for the majority of the game. The offense was totally stagnant and kept turning the ball over, yet this defense kept us in it until that last Ravens drive of the game. And that is just the truth, man. That's one of the best teams in the entire NFL, and the defense was the one keeping us in it until the last play of the friggin' game. And listen, bro, I'm always going to call it how I see it, whether it fits a narrative or not. And I think people don't like that the facts here don't fit the narrative that Brandon Staley is the only reason that we keep losing. Look at the Chargers rushing stats in the box score. It looks pretty good, right? 4.5 yards per carry. I'll take that for this offense, bro. But if you watch the game, you would realize that they could not run the ball, and Justin Herbert had 1 long 35-yard scramble that makes the box score look better than it actually is, because this offense was absolutely terrible the entire way through in this game. And honestly, the Chargers offense has looked terrible on and off this whole season. In the Raiders game, Justin Herbert was under duress all game from Max Crosby, and they could not run the ball outside of 2 long runs by Joshua Kelly and then Darius Davis. and they only managed 305 total yards in that game to the Raiders defense that went on to allow the Bears offense to score the same amount of points the Chargers offense did. And Tyson Bagent had only 5 less yards than Justin Herbert, and he didn't throw any interceptions. In the Cowboys game, it was more of the same with a terrible rushing performance, only 2.3 yards per carry, and Justin Herbert was under pressure all game, leading to him throwing a game-ending interception and less than 300 yards total on offense in that game. Against the Chiefs, the Chargers had slightly more success running the ball, but most of their yardage came from one long touchdown run by Joshua Kelly in the first half, and Justin Herbert was sacked 5 times and under pressure again for almost the entire freaking game, and he threw 2 interceptions. Even in a game that we won against the Jets, Justin Herbert was under pressure the whole game and sacked 5 times again. And the offense as a whole only had 191 yards in that game. Zach Wilson threw for more yards than our entire offense in that game. So who is to blame for the offense then? Because we have Justin Herbert, so this offense should rarely have bad performances. Well, it's a combination of a few things, but let's start with the poor play calling. This team has put themselves in a terrible position consistently with first and second down runs that rarely have success and put the offense behind the sticks, which forces Justin Herbert in obvious passing downs on a 3rd and medium, if we're lucky, 3rd and long usually. Then he is obviously under pressure because the pass rushers know that we want to throw the ball. And it puts Herbert in a bad position and everyone else in a bad position. The Cowboys fans were telling me months ago, as soon as we hired Kellen Moore, that this was a problem for him. But I didn't believe them. Kellen Moore is the one calling the plays though, and this is his offense. So both him and Staley get the blame for the bad play calling. And I know a lot of you guys love Kellen Moore, but that is just the reality of the situation. I'm just laying out the facts. And another part of the blame falls on Tom Telesco, because the talent on this team, it's just not as good as we thought it was. And it sucks to say that, man, because listen, just hear me out a bit, because this is going to be tough to hear. The only good players on this offense are Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater and Keenan Allen, who is a 31-year-old wide receiver entering the final year of his contract. Quentin Johnston was drafted, obviously, to mitigate the impact that Keenan Allen is going to leave, but he was benched in the final minutes of this game. And if you don't believe me, listen to Brandon Staley after the game. Zion Johnson, the first-round pick, he's been playing at the same level of Will Clapp, which is not terrible, but below average for sure. Jamari Sawyer is the next best offensive lineman, but he's around average as well. Trey Pipkins, almost got freaking Justin Herbert killed a few times this season, but we all know about that. But even Austin Eckler, bro, he's taken a huge step back and does not look like a good running back, especially in a day and age where it feels like you can find good running backs basically anywhere. You don't need to draft them like you drafted Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller, who are not contributing to this team very much at all. Guys like Jalen Guyton, Isaiah Spiller, Donald Parham, Gerald Everett. These guys are good football players for sure. I'm not arguing that. But if you look around the NFL, you can find 30 guys that are an upgrade over every single one of them. A lot of people like to defend Tom Telesco, but the reality is he's had 2 elite quarterbacks and apparently drafted extremely well and puts tons of talent on this team. But he has an 81-86 overall record and only 3 playoff appearances. Are we okay with that? Are we okay with the team having almost half of the cap tied to guys like Joey Bosa, Mike Williams, Derwin James, Corey Linsley, Trey Pipkins, Michael Davis, and J.C. Jackson? Most of those guys I just mentioned did not even play in this past game, and if they did, they weren't great. And if that is not on the general manager, I don't know how I can convince you that anything is on the general manager. Tom Telesco has had some good hits like Tuli Tuipulotu recently. I'm not going to deny that. That's a good pick. But what team never hits in the draft? I am more concerned with the blatant misses and the huge cap issues that we have with basically nothing to show for it. And the guys that are earning all of that money, they're just not contributing to this team right now. This loss was already past the point of emotional torment for me for this season, so it didn't hurt me as bad as it could have. But let me know where you guys stand on Tom Telesco. Obviously, Brandon Staley's going to be gone after this year, but do you guys think Tom Telesco should go as well? I do. And if you want to see my full reaction from this game, here is my angry reaction from yesterday. Oh my God, this season sucks, dude.